Hurricanes possess the power to alter lives within a mere span of hours. With sustained winds exceeding 74 miles per hour, they can unleash havoc on any community. Here in the Virgin Islands, we are intimately acquainted with the devastation they leave in their wake. In this special Legit segment, our aim is to impart preparedness advice, because being prepared is paramount.
Greetings and welcome to a special Legit presentation. I am Alwyn Baptiste Jr. of the Public Affairs Division here at the Legislature. The topic of discussion today is an important topic to all of us in the Caribbean, hurricane season, which runs from June to November. Joining us on this special presentation are no other than two distinguished guests: our Deputy Director of Planning and Preparedness, Regina Brown of the Virgin Islands Territorial Emergency Management Agency, VITEMA. Also, Mr. Ernesto Morales from the island of Puerto Rico, well-known meteorologist, renowned meteorologist. Welcome, thanks for being here, thanks for sitting with me. Together, we'll delve into crucial information and preparation strategies for the upcoming hurricane season, as well as analyze data from past hurricanes. Our goal is to ensure the residents are all well informed and ready to face any challenges that may arise. Mr. Ernesto, our guest, we don't get to you, Regina. We don't get to you. Tell me a little about yourself. What do you do for the National Weather Service?
My official position is I am the warning coordination meteorologist for the Weather Forecast Office in San Juan. That our responsibility is for Puerto Rico and also the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Okay. So how did you get here? How did you transition to being? It was a dream of yours, or you just?
Yeah, when you become a meteorologist, it's something that started really at a young age. Okay. So in my case was Hurricane Hugo. Okay. You know, I figured out that was my turning point. I want to become a meteorologist. But also, I've been sailing all my life, and I've been surfing all my life. So you always need to know the weather conditions. So what better way to do your job that's something that is your hobby? I'm not good enough to be a pro surfer or a pro sailor.
But you love to do
it. Let's do weather. You know, I love weather. And one of the reasons I visit the Virgin Islands to see the new generation, to see if the new meteorologists could come out from the Virgin Islands.
Okay, nice. So we're just about to start the hurricane season. Actually, it feels like we started already because it feels
hot.
I can feel the heat. Yeah. We're getting some unexpected rain. I mean, we love the rain. The farmers, everybody just needs it, but we got to be prepared for what's coming. And it seems like we have a very interesting hurricane season coming. What's your thoughts about that?
Well, last year we had El Nino, right? This is something that happens in the Pacific, but the impact of El Nino over us is that the winds, the mid to upper levels, now we call it wind shear, is high. Mm-hmm. So every storm that comes out from Africa, or every tropical wave that comes out from Africa, the wind shear doesn't let the system develop. Okay? But last year, it was like the fourth most active seasons in 1950. So it didn't make sense. But what happened was the water was so warm, right, that the warm waters come over the wind shear. So that's the reason we had a lot of storms. But this year, El Nino is gone. We're getting into La Nina. And La Nina, and that transition to La Nina, is always very favorable for system to develop. Okay. Not favorable for us,
right.
For the system to develop. So the environment is more favorable for hurricanes to develop. Plus, the waters are even warmer.
Right.
So the temperature of the ocean is like the fuel for the system to develop, organize, and intensify. Therefore, if we have more energy down there in the waters and the local waters, there's a bigger possibility, a higher probability to have system passing by.
Okay, all right. So how does, the days today, these summers feel like it's getting hotter. So does that cause the fluctuation in the water temperatures?
People will quickly say it's climate change. It could be climate change, but for us to tell the public that it's climate change, we have to see if there's tendencies. The tendencies are there, that this higher temperature in the oceans are part of the climate change. But the reason that you're feeling hotter every summer is because the waters are getting warmer and warmer and warmer. And the thing is that the ocean, the temperature in the ocean modules the temperature over land.
Okay.
So I remember when we were kids, we could remember that the temperature went down during summer to the high 70s, okay? Nowadays, that temperature is not going below 80. So we don't go that low anymore. So early in the morning hours, the sun comes out, it will quickly go to the 90 degrees. We're not having breaking record temperatures.
Right.
What we have is more time exposed to this extreme temperature of 90 degrees.
Right.
Plus, we're an island, we're surrounded by water. So the
the water's
humidity,
hot, right.
the humidity is always high. So even yesterday, it was hot, but it didn't reach 92. It was a 91, the high here in St. Croix. Plus, you have all the humidity, you feel like it's 108. That's the reason the National Weather Service in San Juan is issuing products for the people, like advisories and also warnings, so the people can make decisions based on this. For example, when you see that we are under a tropical storm warning or a hurricane warning, you prepare yourself. You change your lifestyle because a hurricane is coming. The same thing with this. If we put out a warning out for heat, let's try not to put the kids out there for a long time. You know, let's try to modify their activities. Don't let them go out and play during the highest point of the sun. You know, when the peak of the heat is there. Workers, we can see how we're doing the repavement of all the streets nowadays. Those people are feeling it. You know, so we need to be taking this in consideration for new public laws that make, okay, maybe we cannot put the people to work at noon. Maybe we can do the road work during the night. You know, so but we have to look for make decisions now for this big change. This is something it's going to stay with us. So we have to learn to modify our lifestyle to adapt to the big changes.
So with all that said, Ms. Brown, so how are we preparing for this hurricane season compared to other seasons coming up?
Well, one thing we're doing, since I'm here on behalf of Director Joshua, who could not be here because he's very engaged in the hurricane season preparation, is every year during the last week before June 1st, we have a big thing called the USVI Readiness Initiative. During that, we have a whole team of over 50 people from FEMA who fly in to determine all of our gaps in the shelters, operational integration, even getting the alerts from Ernesto. He was here as well to brief us. And just those things have been able to strengthen us. It's about the 4th or 5th year. And every year going in on June 1st, they have already briefed to Governor Bryan the gaps. So we go into it knowing where we're weak and we know how to improve. And now FEMA will be here. Prior to the peak of the season on August 15th, they stay close to us in either Puerto Rico or the Virgin Islands. So they're always right there to respond as best as we can.
Okay, so with all that being said, right now we're in the age of technology. I could look at my phone, I could see outside it's raining, outside it's hot, where the sun is. So how do we get this message out as far as preparedness to the rest of the world?
Well,
I know, not to cut you off, but I know we do radios and we do jingles and we do that, but there's a whole other generation right now.
We understand that, and we're trying to figure it out how we're going to make the public stay engaged with our products. And nowadays, people don't watch TV, right, or don't listen to live radio. So we had to go through the technology. Nowadays, we are putting all our eggs in this basket because this is the way to go. The technology is that everybody has a cell phone. And right now, if you issue a warning, only a warning, that will go to your cell phone. The problem is it's very easy to block it.
Right.
So please don't do it. You know, this could save lives. You know, you could be on the beach or having fun and there's a tsunami. The first place you're going to receive the message is through your cell phone.
Right. Okay.
So that's very important. But also we need to make it part of our culture to be always situation awareness about,
conversation,
because we cannot disconnect from the real world, right? Nowadays, you can see our younger generation always on their social platforms, and not listen to real time activity. So, something that we want to do is, first of all, make it like understand everybody to not turn off the WIA, and also visit our page. Our page, you mentioned that you go to your cell phone, you can see the temperature, you can see if it's going to rain or not. All that information is coming from us, from private sectors that go and sell this to the cell companies. But all the information is coming from us, and we don't matter. That's our job. So, but for the public to understand that what's going to happen that day, it only takes 2 minutes. Go and visit our page at weather.gov/SEAU. And that will give a summary what's going to happen through the islands. So weather will not be a surprise for us.
Okay, circling back to you said about you explaining the difference between El Nino and El Niña. What is it? What is the difference between?
Yeah, El Nino is we call it ENSO, right? It's a El Nino Southern Oscillation. This occurs in the Pacific, but because this is a closed globe, anything that happens in one part of the world, it affects the other part. El Nino for us is when warm waters on the Pacific create heavy rainfall and big thunderstorm in the Pacific, and those big storms change the wind pattern across the Atlantic and Caribbean basin. What makes it is a stronger wind shear on top of us, so that will make an environment less favorable for hurricanes to develop. Okay. But in other part of the world, like California, El Nino brings rain. The reason they had such a huge drought, it was because the last time El Nino happened was in 2016. So they didn't have that river of humidity coming into the area. So that's the reason they were so dry. Nowadays, we went to El Nino for only 1 year. Sometimes it can drag for 1 to 2 to 3 years. They had enough rain. They got all their water savers right and ready, right? But in our case, we're expecting less activity because of those strong wind shears. And somebody told me this week here in St. Croix that we never had a dry season this year. It rained the entire dry season. So this changed everything that we thought that we knew. Oh, we can relate to El Nino that's going to be dry. Therefore, it rained a lot, and the hurricane season that year during El Nino, it was not a quiet one, was to be one of the most active in history. So what we're getting into is it's La Nina now. Okay. And La Nina will create an environment more favorable for its storm to develop. So that's one of the reasons we are worried. And that's one of the reasons we're trying to make the public understand that this season is going to be not an active one. The word we're using is hyperactive. Okay. So we know there's a list of names, right? The 22 names, and probably we're going to use all the names and go to a new list, a supplementary list that we use when the names are gone in the official list.
I'll come back to that question. I always wanted to figure out who names, because I ain't seen my name yet.
Me neither.
I don't know if I want that as well. So let's talk about preparedness now. What do we need to do, especially as Caribbean? And I've been through several hurricanes myself. Going through the hurricane is one episode. After the hurricane is another episode. Definitely life changing. I've been through Hugo. I remember I slept through half of it. I got up and I went. We had a glass door, and I went to see what's going on outside. And while I'm going to the glass door was coming to me. Freaked me out. And of course, we got rid of that. But those were life-changing episodes for me. So what do we need to do to be prepared? Because sometimes we hear, oh, hurricane coming, and we just say, oh, hurricane coming, but realistically, we have seen a lot of damage. We still having the effects after the last two hurricanes. We're still going through that motion as well. So what do we need to do at this point?
What we try to tell the public is to make sure that, even like Ms. Morales said, be prepared all the time. preparedness is all the time. So don't wait till June 1st to say we're getting ready for the season.
Right.
As soon as the season is finished, continue to get prepared, have emergency cash, which is $10 a week, $20 every pay
Right.
week. Do what you can afford to have. Have supplies for you and your family for 5 days at a minimum. If you could do 14, that's fine. But Vaitima understands the economic situation in the Virgin Islands. Everybody can't afford to have that much supplies.
Right.
But have that so when the government opens up points of distributions, you can still sustain
Right.
if we're overwhelmed and trying to get back continuity.
Right.
Make sure that you talk to your children and your families. You know what to do, have your medications, have your plan if your house is not sturdy or safe. Know where the shelters are. Because the shelters are not long-term shelters. They're
Right.
evacuation shelters. So you only go there for the storm and then you leave because we're using schools, for
Right.
the most part, and we want to go back to continuity. We're just asking everyone, personal resilience starts with you.
Right.
And talk about it, get prepared prior to the hurricane coming off the coast of Africa, and when they send their projections is 72 hours out, because we know PTSD is real.
Right.
Remember, Maria?
Right.
So if you can be prepared slowly, by the time it comes, you can actually say, hey,
Right.
I have water, I have my medication, I have my supplies.
Right.
So we're-
Especially for the old, and we have a lot
Yes.
of
Correct.
especially in St. Croix. So we definitely make sure that we take care of them and make sure they get the water and make sure we have
Yep.
somebody who'll be able to either look out for them or get the word to them as well.
Preparedness starts individually.
Yep.
We cannot depend on government. When the hurricane hits us, the government has their hand full.
Right.
They're working on all their big issues. So we always tend to tell the people, it's not only you start doing your emergency plans individually. Sit down and think about with your family. What are our vulnerabilities? What we live close to a gut, we live close to the shore. Try to figure it out what could affect you. What will be the impact during that worst case scenario? Maybe for St. Croix, Maria, and for St. Thomas and St. John, Irma. We have those storms fresh in our memories, so we can sit down and think about it. What went wrong and what went good, right? What went wrong, don't use it.
Right.
It's not going
That's
to
it.
work. It
That's right.
didn't
Right
work
away.
before. It's
Agree.
not going to work in the future.
Right.
So start to work with that, because people think that, are you ready for a hurricane season? Say, yeah, I got my generator. A generator is not a plan.
That's right.
You have to sit down with what to do before, during, and after a storm. Okay, in that part of after, right? We're all survivors of the 2017 season, right? We had Maria, Irma, Jose. Everybody forget about Jose.
Yes.
But so, what I'm trying to say is that we need to. It's that part that we had to think about the aftermath. What we're gonna do? How's your neighbors gonna do? The person who helped you during these storms wasn't the government. It wasn't there knocking the door down.
Right.
It was your neighbor.
neighbors, agree.
Your neighbor passed the
Agree.
cable of the generator for your fridge.
Agree.
See, so, and after we start getting the bushes back again, or cable TV and air conditioning, we forgot about our neighbors.
Agree.
So, I think the first step is to build that relationship with your neighbors, because those are the people who's going to save you. So if after you do that, you would talk about PTSD, right? I'm married to a psychologist. Never married to a psychologist. Well, I'm married to a psychologist, but the best thing about being married to a psychologist, he got great friends. That we talk about this subject a lot.
They're good at
You say-
talkers. Good talkers.
yeah, and the listeners.
Good, yeah.
Listeners that when I sit down with them and say, what we can do with the PTSD, that this is a mass PTSD we're having,
Right.
and they say, Ernesto, you cannot control the weather. We cannot control the weather, but you can control your surroundings. If you can control your surroundings by prepare yourself, that anxiety goes down because you feel, I'm prepared.
Right.
There was always challenges, but the thing is, you feel more prepared if you're more relaxed if you are prepared. So that's the first step. Before the hurricane season, the forecast comes out, like it's going to be hyperactive. I'm ready.
Right.
I'm ready because I'm prepared.
Right. Agreed. So let's talk about have we established our shelters for the Virgin Islands, all 3 islands, or how does that work?
That actually works with Department of Human Services being the lead, but they bring all of the supporting agencies like us, VI Fire, EMS, Red Cross, education, then police, I may be missing out people. Other
Right.
governmental agencies and the nonprofits, like the VOADs and the COADs, sometimes
Okay.
come to the site visit. We do that usually in January to February. We do like an assessment checklist of are they ready. Then we give this. We recommend the things that need to be fixed,
Okay.
and then we proceed. But shelters have been identified for the islands. I think there's like 3 on each island in St. Thomas and St. John. I mean St. Thomas and St. Croix, and then 1 in St. John that they're trying to work to
Okay.
finalize.
Okay.
But Department of Human Services is the lead.
Is the
of
lead on
those.
that, okay.
Yes, and I try to do 3. So it's on St. Croix. I know it's Cannigator Rec. Second, I hope that's right. And the Rec Center or the Sports Center. The shooting gallery for D&J was going to be deemed as one to kind of put it centralized, but I think they're still fine tuning stuff with that and complex.
For when there's when we decide that when we have a hurricane, do we expect the people that are you thinking where I live? I'm not too sure. Should I be making plans for the shelter from then? That's when you want me to do it, because it's hard to be thinking about going to a shelter when a hurricane is actually going on. So should I be thinking about that before, prepared?
Sure, you have to
Right.
identify where to go.
Where to go.
And you know worse than that is that here in the Caribbean, everybody is a meteorologist. So they see the forecast and nah, that's not going to happen. You know, and that's the biggest mistake.
Right.
You know, that's the reason we always ask the general public, go and only follow the official source of weather for Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands. That's the National Weather Service at San Juan. We're always watching the weather here. You know, it's a constant job. We got a team of 17 forecasters that work 24/7, 365 days a year. You know, because weather can occur anytime, right? So if you start following those meteorologists that are on Facebook or any kind of social media platform, you're going to be in big trouble.
Right.
The big decisions are here are made based on what we're saying, on the impacts. Something I like to clear out is that National Hurricane Center does the forecast for the intensity and the trajectory of the storm. Us as local meteorologists, we do what that line, right, that cone for the forecast cone, and that intensity means for us.
Right.
Okay, we do it. What are going to be the impacts over the islands, and that's then you have the whole picture, right? And that little meteorologist everybody has inside, like, it's not going to happen. Trust us.
Right.
We're doing a great job lately. Our forecast is becoming better and better. So, yeah, I know that people get mad when we say there's a hurricane and nothing happened, but you should be happy.
I guess. Yeah.
Nowadays, after that
Yeah.
2017 season, you know, every time there's a cone on top of us, you know, I feel the PTSD.
Yes.
Feel, and, you know, so it's a challenge. So just follow us. We're a group of local people, because back in the day it was a bunch of mainlanders. Nowadays, if people are from the tropics, they know that the normal rain only lasts 15 minutes, but and then you want to put 100% for that. So
Yeah.
it's kind of hard when you're dealing with a mainlander and a local from the islands.
Yeah.
That's the dream I have. We have one, Robert Mitchell. It's a forecaster that has been with us for over 20 years. But he's retiring in December. And my dream is every office, because we are 122 offices across the nation and territories. My dream is to have a person from the Virgin Islands there, because we are forecasting to the people we're representing. So if we can find it, part of this recording, you know, get some kid looking at us, I want to be a meteorologist. It's a great career. It's a great career.
One of our sitting senators has a compelling argument about us having our own meteorologists here in Ireland. What's your thoughts on that?
I think we can do a better job of informing the people, okay? Because the forecast is being done already, okay? So this is the first part. The day-to-day forecast is there, but we need to show that information to the public, so the public can have decide what to do that day. Like if you're going to do some construction or going to paint, that forecast is there. But during a special event like hurricanes, what we're planning to do from now on is to deploy one of our forecasters to the islands, to the state EOC, right? We don't have three candidates who come down here, but at least one person to help and to make the big decisions. They're not going to make the decisions to nobody.
Right.
You're going to give the information
That's
for
information,
them
right.
to make the decision.
Right.
And I think that will help this gap of information, not only for the general public, also for the people are making the right decision for the public of the Virgin Islands.
So, like I said, back to the subject of technology, are we thinking on the line that Vitima should have their own app that we go to, guaranteed, pops up on my phone, just like all other things?
You want to answer that? Go for it.
Those thoughts and conversations are being had.
Okay.
I've traveled to conferences and I've seen the benefit in like California when I was in San Diego, and I downloaded the app, I checked it out. There's stores, and they didn't even just have emergency messaging. They actually had preparedness information. Your kids, everything. It was amazing.
Right.
They got it through federal grants.
Yeah.
So we are trying to work the conversation because, like you said, we know the generation is big on apps.
Yes.
So we want to do it, but
Yeah.
it's the funding to do it,
Right.
and then having the funding to maintain it. That's what the state of California
That's-
told me too.
that's
That's
today's
where the
challenge.
fee, it might be
Yeah.
a little issue,
Right.
with budgets and different things.
I was going to be pessimist and mention that first. It's the maintaining. You can do an app. You can buy an app.
Yeah.
But if you don't have the maintenance, that's worthless.
Right, and with something like that, we're going to definitely need somebody to be there to be able to.
If you miss
it's real
one,
time.
you completely lose the trust of the public. So it's very important if Vitima step up and do a local app for weather, that local app has to be there for the public of the Virgin Islands.
Okay. Another thought that I've been thinking about is how does the Sahara dust affect us,
Yeah.
good and bad?
Well, the bad thing is everybody gets allergies and
Yes, yes.
conjunctivitis
And the car gets dirty and all that other stuff.
Exactly. But the good thing about the Saharan dust is it transfers a lot of energy and also nutrients, and it's been there forever, But we have noticed that also is a limiting factor for hurricane development. If the storm has a dry air wrapping around the storm, drier air could be Saharan dust, that feature will inhibit the development of the storm. So it's a good thing. And right now, that's the only thing this season, the season 2024, that could limit the storms this year. The thing is that I will not trust this because right now, the season of the Saharan dust starts around March and continue until August. And we only have one big event. So if people are saying, the Saharan dust is going to limit the 2024 season, I don't think so. It's there. It could limit sometimes,
Right.
but not the entire season.
Okay. So back to I have to think about. I'm thinking about how it is. I think about how hurricanes and what it is that we go through and all the different changes that we have. So how do you incorporate the other offices for the government? BIT, I know they definitely controls most of the internet and what goes on, and which we're definitely going to meet at some point. That's to talk to the rest of the world. So how is that communication? How is that going? And how does that? I know you said you had a couple of meetings already. How is that going?
Actually, we tested that this week, and we do it every year.
Okay.
And BIT is a part of it, and they test the PACE plan. I think it's primary, alternate. I forgot to say. But it's ways of determining different communication channels, and we just actually tested. So they use like LMR radios, satellite phones, and different things for connectivity. They want to we're integrating Starlink through BIT into the territory because Director Joshua is a big champion
Yes,
for
I remember
Starlink
him- I remember him
and
mentioning
everything
that.
with that.
Right.
And they test it very regularly, just about every month. But this week they actually did a functional portion to actually make sure that commissioners, other agencies are checking in
Yeah.
and making sure they understand the communications, making sure they know where to find their radios, making sure they know how to do continuity of government and operations. And it actually went well. There were some gaps, but we have a whole policy now to bridge our gaps.
Right.
And we track it to make sure that what the gap is today is not the same gap next year.
Right.
We're not perfect, but we're slowly getting down that path. But BIT and other agencies are very involved.
During after Maria in Puerto Rico, the biggest problem was lack of communication. Every communication went down. 3 weeks before Maria, I was here in St. Thomas, and you guys didn't lose communications. So probably that was a good thing for your recovery. It was a quick recovery versus what happened in Maria, that for the first 3 to 4 weeks, nobody could talk to nobody. And when you don't have communications, improvisation is the rule. And when you do that, it's when you get a lot of mistakes. Okay? So communication is the base of our recovery efforts. So I hope that the people in the Virgin Islands continue what they're doing, because they did a good job during Maria and during Irma. Don't be like us in Puerto Rico.
That's good to hear.
No, the thing is, it was hard. It was hard.
Good to hear.
I remember me talking to my wife from St. Thomas, telling her, we're not ready for a Hurricane Cat 5 like Irma. 3 weeks after that, we got Maria. So,
great information. So, tell me one of your memorable hurricane experience. I've thought about forecasting, and
I think the biggest memory I had, like the biggest impact I had, was during Irma when I came to document the damages. I remember I was walking through the street taking pictures, and the police stopped me. And they asked me, well, who are you with? I'm like, National Weather Service. No, you need an escort. So they put me back in the patrol car. They knew what I was doing, so they drove me around, and I took pictures. And I saw how much damage St. Thomas had after Irma. And they took me to the Vaitima office, and I was doing the line. Back then it was Director Mona Barnes. I was doing the line to talk to her, and talking to people, and people were saying, stuff happens. They had a different attitude. They didn't say, this is going to happen before, it's happening now, it's going to happen again. And this is the right attitude. And that's the old lady told me that, and that had changed my entire life. I'm like, you know what? Even if you feel that you're on bottom, everything's going to be okay. But for us to be faster in the okay side, you need to prepare. Okay. So yeah, there's a lot of stories I can do, but it will be a video of 3 hours. No, just kidding.
Okay, so when I look at my phone and I see a radar, right? Is that what you see?
That's the same thing that we see.
Okay. But you just...
If you grab your phone and you see the radar, you're a click away to get in the forecast. So therefore, once again, we invite the people of the Virgin Islands to go and visit your forecast, because it's done for you. And if you have that information, you can make better decisions. Like, I'm not going to cut grass today because there's a lot of heat out there. You know, heat is something that worries me a lot, because it's the silent murder. Because you don't die from heat cutting the grass that day. You start having problems with your heart, chest pains and stuff like that days later or even weeks later. So once again, if you see that there's a advisory or a warning, it's for you to make the right decision and don't get exposed, you or your family, to that condition, heat conditions.
Okay, we're supposed to get some rain. We got a lot of rain. It's obviously looking like that for the rest of the summer. How do we transverse about that? We had some rain the other day, and we got cars got flooded. I haven't, in my experience, I don't even know if I've ever seen that. Cars stopping on the road and what's not. So, is that, as far as rain, it doesn't have enough wave to the rain to go? How does that affect us on a daily basis?
And this is a problem that they don't show this, but the first question you have to ask if there's some construction going on. If you do have moved something that it wasn't there before, you know, or you cover the drainage because of some construction. Those are the little things that you have to see why it's happening now and not before. Okay, because the rain was heavy. It was heavy rain. It was 2 inches, 3 inches in less than an hour. That's a lot. But if you don't have the infrastructure to absorb all that rain, that's when the runoff becomes flood water, and you can see what the images, you see the car floating around.
Right. So then, hence why we needed the information to get out for before, so the motorists would have made a better decision of trying to drive through it and what's not, right?
Yes, exactly.
So where are we right now as far as preparedness for this season
In the territory?
in the territory? Yes, sorry.
That's okay. We're at a pretty good place as a government, but now we're going into it. So we're going to be doing, we had Hurricane Preparedness Week in May, May 5th to like the 11th. So we're pushing out a lot of information. Right now we're going to be getting into the community very heavily.
Right.
We're going to be supporting all of the expos, from the one for housing, the one on June 1st on 3 Islands. Me, my director, and a assistant director, the Blas, are going to be there. And we're pushing out into the schools before the summer camps, I'm sorry. You know, to make sure we get a message out, because people are calling us a lot for the weather that he's saying for sandbags.
Right.
But when we give sandbags, believe it or not, nobody comes. And we does it for like 3 to 4 days, and they don't show up. But
Oh.
then when we stop, and the rain is coming, because he pushes it out,
Yes.
they want their sandbags.
Right.
And we also have been telling them, store your sandbags properly.
Yeah.
Don't leave them outside in the sun. Put them up and different things like that. We're at a good place, but we need people to continue to buy their supplies, get the information, sign up for Alert VI. And please acknowledge receipt of our messages,
Right.
because it tells us that you got it and we reach a certain percentage. We know people say it's annoying, the calls, the this, the that. Switch it. You can have emails, text, or calls. So pick your preference. Call by Tima will help you, but please acknowledge receipt. Also, we're going to keep blasting those messages out to the community.
Why June to November?
Well, June to November is because we do this based on the climatological or the historical or statistical frequency of the storms.
Right.
A few years ago, they started talking about pulling a little bit the season to start on May 15, right? Because we had like 8 years in a row where we had storms before June 1st.
Right.
Back in the day, I told you, they can start that season at May 15. That will not affect us, because the storms that affect us, they're always at August and September, the peak of the season. But nowadays, with climate change and the waters being so warm, I believe that we need to be prepared all the time. And not very prepared when the National Weather Service issue a watch or a warning. If you wait until that, you're not going to get right. The preparedness is going to be the right way. You have to prepare yourself now.
Right.
We have the time now, and then we have the time and the relaxed time to talk to your family.
Right.
Because when we start talking about at 72 hours, we're going to have a storm on top of us, you know, your brain is not going to be there. So something that to remind the public, the watch could be for a tropical storm or a hurricane. It goes out 48 hours before you start having the effects, and the warnings are issued 36 hours. So watches is to watch, to get prepared, to find the touches, but warnings, when we're in a warning, everything must be already done, and just sit down and wait safe with your family. Something I always like to add is that don't ask what category is the system. When we only look at categories, we only look at the winds.
Right.
And sometimes a good example of this is Fiona. It was a tropical storm with heavy rain that we knew it would bring catastrophic rain to Puerto Rico. But when I did a press conference, the first question is, do you think it's going to be a hurricane? I'm like, well, there's a small probability to be a hurricane, but we're focusing more into the rain.
Right.
And I saw the people like shutting down. Oh, I survived Maria. I survived Irma. So I can deal with a tropical storm. And a lot of people got surprised how much destruction had happened with Fiona, because they were focusing on the wind's impacts.
Right.
The storms are complete. Each storm is completely different to the other one.
Right.
So the first thing I would never do is compare Irma with Martin, you know, or Irma with Jose, or I could not compare because they're like our kids. They look alike,
Yeah.
but they behave completely
That's right.
different. So look at that forecast cone, look at that intensity, but first, but most important, look at the impacts you're gonna have from each storm. That's basically the best way to attack the type of system.
Again, thank you, Ms. Regina Brown and Mr. Ernesto Morales, for taking the time to stay here with me. And to the rest of the Virgin Islands, I want you to stay prepared and take care. I'm Alvin Baptiste for Legit Television.